5 days of awards.
5 days of awards.
Inspirations and solutions.
Inspirations and solutions.
Radio Week.
Radio Week. 5 days of awards.
5 days.
And hello to everyone.
Hello.
We are back.
Hello.
Margaret. And Fiorenza.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, Fiorenza, hello.
Yes, hello. Hello, everybody.
So, Margaret, I'll let you introduce this great session.
Yeah, welcome everybody and thank you for joining. Today we're going to talk about modern delivery solutions for podcasters and radio stations. And here we have Detlef Weiss, CEO of Ferncast. Welcome, Detlef.
Hi, Margaret.
Hello. Benjamin Buchholz, Managing Director at Nakamar. Hello, Benjamin.
Hi, everybody.
Nice to see you. Luca Viscardi, he's a podcaster from Italy. Hello, Luca.
Hello, everybody.
Francesco Paolo Tarallo, he's Partnerships and Business Development Manager for Mediamonde in Italy as well.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Hello. And Pietro Regaloni, and he's going to be moderating our today's session. Welcome, everybody, and I'll pass it to Piero.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Philip. Today, Radio Week talked about podcasting, but we are all also radio people, mainly radio people at the moment also. And we have an experience in broadcast, so we'll be talking about audio on demand, linear streaming, and hybrid forms. I think that radio stations and the know-how and technical skills also to manage podcasts, or at least audio on demand. And this is a good opportunity for them also, not only for native podcasters. We have to say that pure podcasting is something very different from broadcast. And I would start with the first guest, Luca Viscardi, which is also known as Mr. Gadget. On the air in radio is Luca Viscardi. Like a podcaster is Mr. Gadget, a sort of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. What podcasting is teaching to you as a radio personality? Luca, you have the microphone off.
Sorry, we'll just put it on immediately. Yeah, now. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you did. Yeah, we both do it. So, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for inviting me. I have to say that podcasting is teaching me a lot of things. First of all, that for the first time now, podcasting is becoming, I would say, a multiple platform stream, because when you think about podcasts, you have to think what is your main delivery channel. I've seen very different habits and behavior from the listeners, whether you're streaming your podcast to a smart speaker or a classical podcast platform. And this makes a very big difference. Starting from being a radio broadcaster, I have to say that sometimes we do a lot of mistakes, just bringing what we do on the radio straight to the podcast. And this is something that maybe was good in the past. I don't think it's not going to work anymore. The competition is much stronger. The quality of the podcasts that are not coming from the radio are getting better and better. If we want to fight as radio broadcasters in the podcast segment, we have to do a lot more than that.
Okay, Luca, but do you think that we will arrive to a sort of meeting point between these two media?
Yeah, I think so. I think that maybe the final life, I know that somebody could find this quite awful to think about, but I think that the final version of the radio will be the podcast. So we are going towards that direction, and there is no chance to avoid it, in my opinion.
Or something in the middle, we can say also. We will talk about these in a few minutes.
Piero, may I just add one thing?
Yes.
Just one thing about this. I think that the podcast for broadcaster is a great possibility, a great chance to give something more to the listeners. You can start talking about a specific argument during your broadcast time, and then develop the argument, going further into the argument, going into a longer version of the argument in the podcast session. And this is a strong and very powerful tool that we have in our hands.
Okay, you've seen also a connection between daily routine of things one person do and the devices and listening to podcasts, something that can be measured better than the normal radio flow. You said that this morning you have a...
I manage two podcasts in this moment. One is Mr. Gadget Daily, which is a real newscast about the world of consumer electronics innovation and technology. It's a 3-minute newscast. I published it at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it's been built for the smart speakers. Another version of my podcast is Mr. Gadget Stories. I try to create storytelling around startup, curious gadgets, and stories coming from the technology, and it's 10 minutes long. I see, first of all, that the newscast goes very strong, very good, very well on the smart speakers, not so well on the other platforms. For Mr. Gadget Story, with a 10 minutes story, is the opposite way around. So it's doing very well on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, not so well on the smart speakers. And the listening times are totally different, and the listening habits. I realized, for example, that when I'm live with a podcast on what we call the ponte, the bridges, the festive days during the weeks, the numbers change dramatically. It's because people wake up later than usual. It's funny because when we measure the radio with the phone calls, as we do here in Italy, nothing changes, never.
Okay. This means that content must also be projected according to the device or the situation people will listen to it.
Yeah, definitely.
It also must be used to deliver audio live in podcasts in a hybrid form. And we have two experts, Benjamin and Detlef. And I would like to understand your point of view about the technology for the audio distribution in streaming on IP.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the audience today. For us as a streaming CDN, it's really interesting to have a close look at the development at the market. And we also see that the podcasting, the on-demand, it's growing fast, and there's a huge amount of different kinds of podcasts. And this is really good because it shows us that there's more than the live. We earn our money 99% with live streaming. So every second live stream in Germany was served by our platform. So, but for us, it's really important to see what is in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And I think maybe it's to get the best of both worlds, because with a podcast, the user has to decide, I want to listen to this and that. And on the other hand, he likes to press a button and there's something, a good program. So the radio show and to have the anchors and the entertaining part of radio is not that. I think this is, but what is in between? So we discussed a lot with our customers, and they say, can you give us a tool? So we building tools, we building, and within this technology and with these tools, we also enable concepts. And since 2 years, we serve customers with the Vibrate platform. So the name Vibrate is more or less what it is. It's a combination out of live streaming and on-demand streaming. So for example, if you missed the latest news, you can say time shift back to the latest news and afterwards come back to the live show. Or if you don't like the music, you can swap or skip the music. And also you can change the content, like if you're living in Paris, not in Marseille, you get different news. So the radio station gets a tool set to stay with the radio stream, but also get in the on-demand world. And what Lucas said is really interesting. I think that the radio can be a good promotion channel for on-demand. And this is also something you can monetize. For example, if we have a really nice new podcast, crime podcast, and if you want to listen to it, just press the button here, and within our technology can start to listen to this podcast in this session. So you don't lose the listener to the Spotify. You can stay with your radio station, and this is more or less, we are tool builders to enable new concepts. And I think this is, for us, it's really important to go this next step, also together with our partners like Ferncast, because this whole world works only together with audio and also the accurate metadata. And this is what Ferncast is able to serve. So maybe Detlef, no one can explain this better than yourself, what Ferncast does in this hybrid world.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Benjamin, for passing the word to me. I think everything which has been said is also to be considered from the more technical point of view. And our main strategy and motivation is, as a innovative software house, is to supply solutions to you to make most benefit out of it, and similar as Benjamin started saying, okay, 99.9% has been live streaming so far, but it's the mixture, and there's a high trend. I mean, we see that there's a huge trend to move to podcasting and on-demand content. And in the same way, I can also say we have considered our development. We started with streaming, and our slogan is any live audio. So it's really streaming, OTT streaming, distribution over different platforms. But in the last year also, we focused with our solution more on podcast creation. So for instance, we have like Deutschland Radio creating 300 to 600 files every day as podcasts. Well, I mean, the codec is important, the encoding is important, loudness is very important. There are quite a few technical parameters. I don't want to go too deep into it, but it's quite important. Why is it so important? Because we want to be cross-platform compatible, and we want to reach as many users as possible. So, of course, the use of a codec is, for any type of codec, is nowadays more like a standard. And different to, let's say, the beginning of the encoding technology, where it was very exciting. But today we provide encoding tools which allow the appropriate coding for particular content, whether that's mono, stereo, multi-channel, and also depending on the source. Again, whether this is probably mono speech, it's a stereo interview with some ambience or with music background, or it could also be binaural, being recorded with a dummy head, and even multi-channel. So back to this question, the codec needs to be operated in an easy and intuitive way. So for instance, a lossless codec like FLAC for high quality and an XHEAC with low bitrate to even reach areas where people have a hard time to access the internet and only get access with low bitrates. So also protocols like HLS are important. So you have something like playlist announcement to the customers, to the users. They don't see anything of it, but at the end, they are able to access the podcast in different quality depending where they are. And the same is with loudness. So the platforms have very different requirements to the loudness to the podcasters providing the podcast. And we believe it's not so much the task of the podcasters, it's our task as a software developing house to provide a solution which more or less automatically creates the appropriate podcast file with the appropriate loudness for a certain platform. And so this overall is probably quite important. And what I was thinking when Luca was talking about, podcast is the future, and I think you mean also it's already, of course, today, but it's the main future of radio. Maybe one interesting question from my side is, has anybody thought about the emotional aspect, whether you as a listener perceive a live audio or you perceive a podcast, because you know the podcast is not live. And is there an emotional aspect to the listener just knowing that the person is speaking actually at that moment live into a microphone?
The point of emotions, which is the difference, what differentiate radio from on-demand audio platforms. Let's touch the third point for this discussion, and is the monetization of content, of digital audio content. With Francesco from Mediamon, which is the pioneer of digital audio monetization in Italy, is part of Mediaset Group, and sells digital audio advertising on the channels, the radio channels of the group, and not only, is also involved in podcasts for the newspapers related to the group. Paolo.
So the podcasting monetization will be for sure in the 2021 the hottest trend in audio advertising. This is due to the fact that podcast is no longer a niche medium, for sure. The supply and demand of podcasts keep growing. We are enlarging our network with some partnership with companies all around Europe. And we are really very far from reaching the saturation point. So when it comes to the podcast business and the strategies for radio broadcasters and the audio companies to get into the podcasting business, there are three main roads ahead. The first one, simpler, obviously, for radio broadcaster as we are, is to produce and monetize own properties. That means the podcast that we have in our radio or the on-demand radio shows. To develop, another option could be develop sales or distribution partnership with podcast producers. And the third one could be acquire or invest in an existing podcast network. As to the advertising monetization model, let's say that the main one is the advertising and sponsorship formats. Here in Italy, we are at the beginning of the business, and the market is starting. Let's say in the 2020, even if obviously the COVID impacted so much for the revenues and explosion of the business. But the main formats we use are pre-recorded audio spots and sponsorship formats. The sponsored podcast or the branded content or even the branded podcast. So these are the main formats. Regarding the main podcast pricing methods, here in Italy we use the CPM, the cost per thousand or cost per mille impressions. The other one is the CPA, but since the business started, maybe it's more popular in US. This is an overall view of the business, but let's say something more after the other people maybe have something to say.
Trend of digital audio advertising for broadcasters specifically, you think that will be very relevant compared with the revenue of the traditional radio in future?
That's for sure. As I said, we are just at the beginning stage, but in the future, there will be a lot of investments. As you saw, probably iHeart Media acquired Voxnest in US. A lot of companies are being acquired by Spotify that even plan to invest for 500 million in future. So I think that there will be a huge explosion in the near future.
Luca explained that the content itself should be designed according to the device where is destinated, and everybody agreed about this concept, this idea. But we know that there is some problem with touch points. I mean, the one that are owned by the publisher can provide a rich quantity of data, profiles, and so a good opportunity to measure and target advertisement. But there are also, for example, aggregators and players that are not under the full control of the publisher. I would like to go back to Detlef and Benjamin and ask their opinion about this question that in Italy is relevant, I think, also in the rest of the world.
Yeah, we're talking about the aggregation portals like TuneIn and Radio Player, etc.
Yes, I mean that when you can provide an SDK for an application that is owned by the broadcaster or the podcaster, you have a good quantity of data back to your servers.
Yeah, for sure. But I think what is really important is that the publisher itself try to find a way to get the listeners to log in to his apps and to his content, and only the live is not what the listeners want. So, for example, a TuneIn is more or less a big library of streams, but nothing else. So, if the radio station want to be more than this, they should offer also combination of an app with live podcasting, with put more value into this app. And then also a TuneIn can be an advertisement channel, like, hey, listen, it's good that you listen to our radio station, but if you want to get more, go to our app. So on our app, for example, we have on demand and we have the podcast shows and stuff like that. So I think TuneIn can be an advertisement channel, and it is good to get the reach, but then there has to be something more, like only the same live streaming. So that's what we're talking of, for example, with the SWR people from Baden-Baden, and they say we in our app we also can offer on-demand music. They have they made contracts with the major labels, and now you can, if you listen to a song, you can bookmark it. You can say, oh, I want to listen to this song later on in my playlist. So without paying money for it. And this is something which is really unique, and that's why the listener takes the app of the radio station, not the TuneIn app. And I think this is a good example what radio stations should do. In this case, it costs money because they made the contract, but maybe there's a special podcast which you can only listen to, or the first you can listen to at the radio station app, and 2 days later it's on Spotify, something like that. It's okay. TuneIn is a promotion channel.
There could be a sort of a promotional channel for people to go to the propriety of something like a strategic use of social networks. You don't give away for free all your content on Facebook, but you place something in that involves listeners to the station, to the brand of the station. Okay.
And we at our CDN we use specific links, so we can say we exactly know this listener is from TuneIn, and we can, for example, play out a special pre-stream with the advertisement, come to our app, but only on TuneIn. So this is what we think is a good idea to separate content, and I think it's a good promotion channel for their own apps and interfaces.
So your point of view about this specific topic of possibility to measure?
Well, data and the measurement will be for sure a must in the 2021. Addressability, since the digital audio is overall digital advertising, is something that the brands and advertisers ask for almost always when planning a campaign. So adding data and targeting to the offer is mainstream for sure in the near future. Obviously, not all the property and not every stream can have the linkage to the user ID or even the behavioral of the audiences, but since, as I said again, audio advertising is a part of the digital advertising. This is the way that brands ask for their planning today.
Detlef, something to comment?
Yeah, I had one more addition to what Benjamin was saying. I mean, we have two directions. We have the publisher finding the listener, the radio station finding the listener, but also the opposite way, the listener finding the publisher and the radio station. I just want to give one additional technical aspect, which is probably an interesting look into the future, that it is more important that we know from all other fields that searching information needs to be supported. And I believe that strongly, and we do some search and research on this also, that the growing AI speech analysis will help more and more, so that we get intelligent summaries of podcasts, in particular those podcasts which have not been delivered yet with the appropriate metadata. And that's probably something which is interesting, that there is a presentation of the podcast by a voice summary and will be presented by a voice assistant, and who may also help in some other matters. So that this is, I think, an interesting perspective for people finding easier the content.
Okay, I go back to Luca, because we are in the domain of audio and voice assistants are growing for number in our life. So what do you think about the user experience with the voice assistants when listening to the radio? Today is very, I can say, simple. You just ask to listen to a station and you have in replay the stream, or eventually an on-demand program show. But what do you think could be the evolution in this field, the voice assistants?
Oh, it depends on whether we want to talk about the possible technical evolution or what really the customers want to do with the smart speakers. Because most of the times we just make dreams about the possible application of technology, and then the listeners simply want to listen to the radio. So I think that smart speakers and voice assistants in general are the best radio friends in 2020, 21, 22, and maybe in the future, because those objects brought the radio back to the houses of our listeners, while the radio was, I would say, slowly disappearing. So these are very important. I think that for the moment, we should keep our listeners using them in the simplest way, listening to the radio. And then we'll see in the future if we need to give them something more.
Thank you, Luca. We may have other topics. For example, there is a big topic which is connected cars and the opportunity for radio to stay there on the dashboard, but we have not enough time to continue the discussion also about this topic. So I thank you, Andy. If you don't have anything to add, I go back to Philippe and Margaret.
Yeah, and yes, go ahead, Luca.
Oh no, just Piero, just one thing about the emotion. The difference
Sure.
was asking about.
I wrote emotion, but it didn't mention.
Yeah, emotion is the most important thing. The radio wins if there is emotion. The problem is that, for example, in the Italian market, radio traded emotion for visibility, looking for visibility using social influencers, TV personalities, brought a lot of visibility, but way less emotion. And I think this is a great risk for the Italian radios, at least.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I think we have to wrap this session. It was very interesting. Just a small, I don't know if you saw the live before, Detlef, but we had a little award that we can maybe show you right now, and then we'll go on to our next session. So here an award, a RedTech award, Marguerite.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy. Makes me very happy, and thanks to the jury. And I really pass it all to the Fancast team members. Great. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Detlef.
Okay.
Congratulations.
If you want to have the last word to close the Radio Week for this first edition.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank everybody for joining in. I've got an echo.
Yeah, I have to close the microphone. So yeah, go ahead.
So I wanted to thank all of you guys, Piero, everybody for joining in, all the sponsors. It's really amazing how technology can actually help bring people together. And especially now, we can't get to shows, we can't see each other. So I think it's been really, for me personally, it's been very inspiring. Thank you. And I also wanted to thank all the people all the other moderators who from around the world. We had Omar Essig from South Africa, Johannesburg, he was great. Steve Schultes from New York, Gary Klein from the US as well. And of course, Graham Dixon, who's in the UK now, and he's the former president of head of the EBU, head of radio for the EBU, excuse me. And we also gave him award as top radio ambassador, and he certainly deserves that. So thank you all so much. Fiorenza, maybe Fiorenza?
Fiorenza, the last word. We don't hear you, so I put your mic on. Now you.
Yeah, I was muted. So yeah, I join Marguerite in thanking everybody, the sponsors first of all, who really believed in us. In September when we started this initiative, the three of us, all the people around us and who collaborated to this Radio Week. It was our first Radio Week for us as RedTech, and indeed. We are happy that we managed to have so many companies joining our awards, because probably you might have heard, but we are going to donate 10% of the incomes of the awards to a company. Actually, it's how's it called, Marguerite?
It's an organization in Belgium. It's Viva for Life, and it helps fight child poverty in Belgium. Thank you. And also, one more, Nicola. Thank you. He helped us organize the whole thing. Thank you, Nicola.
Yes, thank you, Nicola.
Yeah, we don't hear you, so now we hear you. Thank you, Nicola.
Thank you, Nicola.
Thank you to all.
Thank you, Fancast. Thank you, Detlef, Luca, Benjamin, and Piero.
Grazie mille.
Hopefully
Thank you, Piero.
We see you for the Paris radio show in January 2022, where Italy will be the featured country, because we postpone it to next year. So hope to see you in Paris, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Radio Week 5 Days of Awards.
5 days of awards.
Inspirations and solutions.
Inspirations and solutions.
Radio Week.